Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Charlie Pankey, Sierra Right Now podcast. We thank you so much for joining us again today. We hope the Sierra is within your view today or is in your future plans. It is a chillier day here in the Carson Valley as the weather is about to turn this week, but we are enjoying our night skies with comets and northern lights and all kinds of fun stuff this October. So we hope you're enjoying your chance to get to see the Sierra. Super excited about our show today. We have a friend from Lake Almanor on the show, somebody we've written about and talked about before. We're going to be talking about some bass fishing today, about some tournament fishing and just life in Northern California. But before we do that, we can't do any of this without our sponsors, and thank you for Visit Carson Valley here in the Carson Valley, our home base for all of our adventures. It is a great time to be in the valley. Fall is a great time. Color along the river is fantastic. Golf season, hiking trails, biking, all that is just a great thing to do here, including some fishing. I know Mark would probably agree with that too. So let me go ahead and play this real quick, and we'll be right back with you. All right. We love the Carson Valley. Thanks again, Carson Valley, for our sponsorship. We can't bring shows like today to you without their help. So, again, if you're looking for a place to travel this fall, the Carson Valley might be a great place to look up. So, hey, guys, we're super excited. We on the show over time going to meet people who become friends, who become acquaintances throughout the Sierra, tell great stories and stuff. I met Mark Pilgrim last August. He got to take me on a boat as kind of a thing we were doing with Plumas County, and it was like we met a best friend type thing. So we hopped on a boat for 4 or 5 hours and did some fishing. He taught me a little bit about bass fishing, which I'd never done before, and it was just like two brothers on the boat talking all day. So it was so fun. But it's been about a year since we got to do that, and I got to see him at a fishing tournament earlier this year when we haven't caught up. So we look forward to bringing some bass fishing today. But Mark, thank you for being our guest today and coming to the show, man. Good to catch up with you.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's always good talking to you. Yeah, it's been about a year, I think, since we've been together. So I got to
great. I think I remember you telling me that we came up there. We only had a couple bites that day. It was a little bit slow. Beautiful day in the lake. And you said, please come back up in September, October when it's just biting like crazy in Lake Almanor. And I haven't made it back up there. So
yeah, it would have been nice to get you out there this year too. I was super busy in September, so yeah, it would have been fun to get you back out there though to catch a couple of those big ones.
Yeah, it was the tug was the drug, right? That I think Mark told me that last year, and I agree. Just a couple times we got to play with the fish. So let's talk about a little bit your story, Mark. You live in Chester, California, all your life, right? You're a native from the region, right?
Yeah, I was born and raised here, and I ended up moving after high school. Went to Chico and went to school down there, and spent about 4 or 5 years in that area, maybe 6 years in Chico, and then I ended up moving back to Plumas County when I was hired with UPS. That was quite a while ago. I'm not going to get into that there, but moved back to Quincy in Plumas County, and then ended up moving back up to Lake Almanor again about 6 or 7 years ago. We bought a house here, so
Very
yeah.
good. And you and your wife Erica live there, and then you have just one son. Is that remember?
Yeah, one son. Yeah, he's in Reno now, so yeah, he's doing well over there, and yeah, it's great to be back, in Lake Almanor in the community here in Chester.
Absolutely. So, and if you fishermen out there, Mark lives our dream that everybody wants. Doc, he's a professional fisherman, so he has a guide service on Lake Almanor, and he's part of the BAM Tour inaugural season this year, the BAM Tour Bass Tournament Fishing, and we got to see Mark live on action on Lake Almanor back in, was it May or June? First part of May.
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was in June.
First week of June, I think. Yeah. Mark, how's that season gone? Tell me about the BAM Tour. We'll start there. How's the season progressing for you? Where are you at right now? And how do you like being on tour?
Yeah, it's been an exciting season. I kind of jumped into this last year not knowing where it was going to go and what was going to happen, and I kind of just wanted to get my feet wet with a bigger series and go into the professional, more of elite kind of thing here in the West Coast, which we've never really had before, and to be able to jump up to that level this year and do that has been pretty exciting. We actually started off. My focus and goal was to try and just get into the top 20 and be able to qualify for the championship this year, which is down at the California Delta in middle of this month. And I started off actually going to Martinez Lake, which is it's about 20 miles north of Yuma, Arizona, and it's the lower part of the Colorado River. and I had never
Okay.
really been there before. We went down and got a day on the water to just kind of drive around, a few months before the tournament, and went down and fished that, and actually did really well. I think I finished seventh in that event, which was really
Great.
good, and that was my first top 10 for the year.
Hmm.
And then came up to our home lake, which we got to see you there. That was awesome that
That's fun.
you showed up for that one. But and I actually led the Almanor event for the first 2 days, and then fell off a little bit my third day of the championship day, and ended up finishing fourth in that event.
Right.
And
I couldn't
then
remember if third or fourth. I was thinking it before the show. Going, did you end up in third or fourth? Couldn't
yeah,
recall.
and I kind of I thought I was going to win that one, and it was right down to the wire, and
Yep.
a good friend of mine ended up winning that one, Colby Pearson. So hats off to him. And we had a great time in that event, and then we fished the Columbia River right after that the next month. Went up there and almost got into another top 10 situation, so that was really good. So the first three
You
events really went good for me.
you broke your boat up there, correct? I
You know
remember
what
on
I did?
social media?
I had some boat issues when I was up
Yeah.
there, and managed to get through some of that, and was able to get on the water and kind of scramble through to get my weight. So I ended up doing well up there. And then our fourth event was at the Oroville Afterbay here, which that was probably my worst event of the year. But
Oh,
that
bummer.
kept me in the middle of the mix. So in points wise, I ended up finishing way higher than I ever thought I was going to for the season.
Great.
So, and to be able to, like I said, qualify for the championship, and to be able to be in the mix with 20 now of the top guys in the whole West Coast fishing in the championship at the end of this month is going to be pretty exciting.
That's pretty exciting. So, you first year of the tournament, when you go to the Delta, everything in the BAM Now Tour, each week resets. Is the tournament reset like everybody's at zero, or do they rank you and you have to like move yourself up the rankings to make it the championship?
The ranking, so it goes on a point system throughout the year. So four series and points, and then that'll take you to where they pick their top 20. So
Right.
the way the point system works is generally 100 points for first place, and then it breaks down. You get some bonus points if you win an
Okay.
event, and then you end up like I said, just qualifying for those top 20 positions, and get making your way into
Okay.
that final event.
And so, does the winner of that event, are they the champion, or does it still by points?
So by points, the angler of the year ended up being Colby Pearson,
Oh, that
who
doesn't
won the
surprise me. He won
Almanor
the
event.
first two, right?
Yeah. So Colby ended up winning the first two events this year, and that kind of locked it up for him. It was kind of harder to chase him down after winning two events, but yeah, once you fish those four events, then that's what locks you into your position for the year. And then the championship is just, it's kind of like where it's not a points thing anymore. It's just the top 20 guys going and fishing for a brand new boat. So we're going to be fishing for a new
Oh,
Cat boat, and a little bit of cash in 2 weeks. So it's definitely exciting, to have a 1 in 20 shot of winning, quite a bit of money. So it's
that's pretty exciting. And if you're not familiar, folks that are listeners out there, if you haven't listened to some of our other shows on the BAM Tour this year, the BAM Tour does things a little bit different. Like, so the Delta for these top 20 fishermen has been a no fish zone for the last 30 days, or at least 30 days of a tournament. So even the guys who have a little bit of advantage, who fish the Delta all the time, they haven't been able to be on that water for 30 days before the event, which kind of really draws the crowd, or draws the field back together a little bit, I would assume. Just like Mark did on Lake Almanor, he wasn't able to fish his own lake for 30 days. So had to go out the first day and learn the water, correct? That
exactly.
makes,
And to be that familiar with your own water all the time, and then to have 30 days where you can't go out there, it really puts everybody on a level playing field. And
yeah.
it definitely makes you think and wonder, and keeps you going. And you just have to kind of go out there and spend the first half of your that first day on the water trying to figure the fish back out.
Just figure it out. I learned so much being on a boat, following you guys around on Lake Almanor. Things that it's like, you guys, that's what makes a professional bass fisher, right? I go out there, I just throw a pole in the water. I don't know if I'm throwing it at a bass or a trout or a squid fish. It's just a lure. And you guys going out there spotting, beds and throwing things right at it it's pretty
Yeah,
amazing
and
to watch you guys
what
go to work. So
I have to give you kudos for that too, because I think the first year when we did that last year when we were out there, it seems like you were pretty green, when you got on the water, and it just kind of seeing you progress through this year too, and watching you jump, come down to the events and watch what's going on, And I think that's been a huge learning curve for everybody. And I was glad to see you, at the Almanor event.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a lot of fun to cover as a media professional, and it was kind of fun to see the crowd grow every day at weigh-in too. Obviously, that had a lot to do with the fact that you were leading 2 days in. I'm sure the town got pretty excited, but there was a lot of excitement. The one thing that caught me, and I've kind of always noticed about bass fishing, and maybe we'll jump here next, is how important the boat is. Right? It's kind of like you guys pull into town on Wednesday. The boats are all lined up. The kids come down for photographs, and people are looking at your boats. They're all into technology. So tell us, Mark. Let's tell the readers what is your boat. Tell us what you like about that boat. And it's not sponsored today, but give us an idea of how that boat plays a role in what you do.
Yeah, the boats are really specific to what we do. There's so many different kind of boats that guys can use and have. And, as bass anglers and being competitive at this level, we kind of all are set up the same way with what we do. There's probably 4 or 5 or 6 different manufacturers that work well for what we, for what we do. And I happen to be running a Nitro Z20. And I've just got it set up a specific way. We all have our own graphs and systems that we like, and we've got live scope and trolling motor setups that we like. My boat works great for what I like to do because I do guide out of it also. Mm-hmm. So guiding and tournament fishing, you kind of have to have a universal setup, and mine's set up, I think, perfect for what I do for shallow water. Almanor is a shallow water fishery, so yeah. The graphs and the setup that I have work really well for here, and I think it's really helped me this year to have that boat in the way that I've got it. I've got it done. I've got Humminbird graphs on it, and I think you saw it when you were out there with me last year. To be able to see the fish live in a live setting with forward-facing sonar is one of those.
It's incredible.
It's a game changer for sure.
Mark would literally say about 15 feet out there, throw it right there. And, of course, you have to learn how to flick the wrist and land it there. But sure enough, that's where the swirl would come from as soon as that lure would hit, and it was pretty amazing. I never could actually see him in the water like you, but I didn't have the proper glasses on.
Yeah, so. And you get to lakes like. The Columbia River, where it's still a smallmouth fishery, but I was seeing fish there that you would look out and see hundreds.
Really?
Live, swimming around. So it's kind of it's different. It's a different feeling when you get on the water and you look out there and you can actually see them live. And it was funny. The first 2 events that I fished, Lake Martinez and Lake Almanor, I actually physically shut my graphs off. I didn't use any of that technology. I didn't use my forward-facing sonar when I was at Lake Martinez. It's a really shallow water fishery, and I didn't want the pinging from my graphs to spook the fish at all.
Yeah.
So I just shut them off. And when I was here, I kind of did the same thing. I was bed fishing at Almanor, so I just shut the graph off. I didn't really need it, but it does help you, and it excels at bigger lakes like Shasta and stuff like that. And the Columbia River really helped having that to be able to see the fish and locate them.
Okay, so you just used a term that is just second nature to you. But let's go back and explain to the amateur listener in bass fishing, what is bed fishing?
So bed fishing, certain times of the year, normally in the spring between March and April, and sometimes May, and it could even run into June, where fish get into a spawning mode where they'll groups of fish will pair up and then they'll spawn, and that generally happens when the water gets to about 55, 60 degrees, depending on what lake you're fishing. And when they do that, they'll actually make a big bed down on the bottom. You can see it. Generally, if the conditions are perfect, you can see that fish on a bed, so they're a little bit easier to catch. If you can't see them, visually with your eyes, a lot of times you can use your sonar to actually see that fish. So that's where that whole thing kind of comes into play and helps you out with it. But I think in the Northwest and the West, they kind of all do the same thing. The fish do that between April and May and June. So that time of year is always really exciting.
That makes it. That was new technology or new terminology for me, and to watch you guys at the tournament, because Lake Almanor was in a transition, so some people were in the beds. So there's a lot of different intricacies for the way you guys fished that lake that week. It was really quite fun to watch. So
yeah, and it was funny because some of the guys were throwing really light stuff, and I was throwing really, really super heavy stuff, and
Yeah.
and kind of doing something completely different. And it's strange the way you can catch them doing different things. And when the fish are kind of doing the same thing, whether they're just sitting around a bed or they're on a bed, that makes a huge difference. And I think that's a part of the learning curve where once you figure that out, you can make an adjustment and be able to catch those fish.
That's so cool. Hey, so let's transition just to Lake Almanor, okay? Let's talk about a little bit Lake Almanor here. You have a guided fishing service up on Lake Almanor. Tell everybody a little bit about what life on Lake Almanor is to you, why bass fishing is so awesome on the lake, and if you have never been bass fishing, why it might be a great place to come learn.
Yeah, you know what? It's a neat place in a bunch of different ways. It's not just a bass fishery. I mean, it's a world-class trout fishery, and there's a lot of trout guys that fish this lake. So I mean, anybody else that wants to come up and fish trout here too, this is a phenomenal place to.
Yeah, we've had Big Daddy on the service.
Yeah, Brian's a great guy, and Brian and I always see each other out there, and it's I think we always have fun with that. But yeah, but the bass fishing part of it for me is it's kind of the same with the trout thing. It's more of a world class, I think, for me, smallmouth fishery in a small sense, with smaller lake. It's not a giant lake, but we have giant smallmouth here, and I think because of the food that's in the lake, the wakasagi, smelt, and then crawdads and gobies and everything else that we have here, and also the hex fly hatch in the springtime, which brings a ton of forage to the lake for those fish. Oh, yeah. The bass fishing here, I think, is probably one of my top 2 or 3 places in the whole West Coast to fish.
Wow.
It's one of those places where you could come here, and if you hit the day right, you could catch 20 fish, that are all 3 and 4 and 5 pounds. So it's there's not a lot of places like that do exist in the West, and for smallmouth fishery. And it's just the other thing too is you get out there, and I think you saw it. You never know what you're going to see when you're on the water. We have Mount Lassen in the background, which is beautiful, and then I think we saw a couple of big bald eagles when we were out there.
Yep, we did.
And it's one of those kind of serene places that you just there's a lot of really neat places out there to fish, but Lake Almanor is really, I think, one of the prettiest places to be.
Yeah, it really is quite a spectacular place. The whole Mount Lassen behind the lake angle is pretty awesome, and it's tree lined. A lot of people think about Plumas County right now. There was the Dixie Fire, and they think of all these big fires, which did destroy a lot of forest. But around the lake, you really can't tell. In 85% of the shoreline is still just tree lined. There's nice homes around it.
Yeah,
it's really quite a beautiful place.
It more or less still looks the same. When you're on the water and you're looking up towards Lassen, you can see a couple little spots that have burnt. But for the most part, when you're on the water, it's beautiful. And it's also it's become kind of a big wakeboard style lake too. There seems to be a lot of wakeboard boats out there, and recreation. We have so many streams and stream areas here that have trout too. The stream fishing here is phenomenal. We've got Hamilton Branch. There's Butt Lake in that area, and it's just it's a great spot.
Do you bass fish any other lakes in the Northern California area there that are pretty close to you?
I do. We've got a couple other lakes here. Butt Lake number 1 is just right down the road from us. It's only about 10 or 15 miles down the road, and it's one of those places that's, I think, overlooked by a lot of people. A lot of people focus on coming to Almanor, and they don't go to that little lake.
Yep.
It's a phenomenal fishery. It kind of fishes the same way as Almanor, and there's some giants in there too. And it's if people have never been there, and for those anglers that have come to Almanor and maybe been frustrated or caught fish here and kind of figured them out, they can go down there and do the same thing. And there's another little lake that I love, and it's kind of my place that I don't tell too many people about. Okay. But Antelope Lake, about between Susanville and here, it's kind of up on the Lassen Plumas County border up there, and it's a largemouth fishery, which for being a high elevation lake, I think it's like 5,600 feet or almost 6,000 feet. It is just stuffed full of largemouth, and that lake is it's one of my favorites for sure.
That is a beautiful tucked away lake. I've driven the back roads through there, and it's like, that's just tucked away where nobody can find it, and it's about the perfect location, right? So
yeah, great place. It's just tough to get to.
Yeah, do you prefer come in from Taylorsville and go up the dirt, or do you come in from 395 and come up over that mountain
Yeah, it used to
path
be.
down? To
Yeah, it used to be easy for me to come up, through Taylorsville that way because it's so pretty. I used to like going that way, but now that the road's, pretty beat up, I tend to go around Susanville and up the other way, so it's a little bit
yeah,
easier.
can you come in from Lake Davis too? Can you come up
Yeah,
from Lake Davis and come up that route too, as well? Right?
yeah, you can come in from Lake Davis, and I believe they repaved that road. There's a little dirt stretch there, but I believe they repaved that a few years ago. It's a pretty nice road going in.
That's pretty nice there. Does Davis have bass in it?
Davis does have bass. I
Okay.
think they did a bunch of stuff to that lake about 20 years ago where they had got rid of all the fish in there because there was northern pike. And I
Yeah.
had heard from somebody recently that there's big bass in there again. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if they planted them or how they got in there, but I believe that there is bass in there.
Yeah, I know a lot of people like fishing there nowadays, but that's good. So,
Yeah.
how is the guide service going for you now that you're a professional? Are you able to still guide and be on the water enough, or are you out practicing all the time? How's that working for you?
It's definitely gotten tougher. I could tell you that. It's you're trying to schedule guide trips, and then you've got pro events where you're gone a lot of the time, so it's hard to schedule people out around my pro events. But I'm trying to get as much time in as I can on the water. Right now it's starting to slow down just because the water is starting to get cooler now, and the
Yeah.
bass fishing's kind of going away. But I tried to fish as much as I could between April this year and the end of September and kind of into October. October is always kind of like that weird transition time for us where it really starts
Okay.
to slow down a little bit, but it can also be really, really good. And
Yeah.
I haven't been able to get out there in the last couple of weeks just because I've been so busy with everything else that's going on. And
Yeah.
but no, the guide service has been good. This last summer was very productive. It was fun. Like I said, I didn't get a chance to do it as much as I wanted to, just because I was so busy. But
Yep.
yeah, but I'm always available. I mean, people, and I've got a new website out there too. People can look me up on that. It's markpilgrimproangler.com. They can go to that
Okay. Perfect.
site and look
Very
on.
good.
And I think
What?
across the board, I think all my stuff is Mark Pilgrim Pro Angler. So they can,
Okay.
if anybody who punches that into their web browser is going to bring them to either Facebook, Instagram, my website. So
I concur. I did that just before the show to make sure I had all that. Very good. So, what if somebody wants to go bass fishing on Lake Almanor? Springtime's obviously good. Late summer's obviously good. But what do they get from a half day or full day on a tour with you?
it's kind of different. Yeah, last year we had, in the springtime it's kind of fun because you never really know what you're going to get into. You might be able to go out there and guys that are coming up bass fishing. I've had bad bass fishermen last year come up in April and go, hey, I want to go out and pre-spawn, catch pre-spawn, bass, and
Right.
we've gone out and caught pre-spawn bass, and then you might have the occasional 10-pound German brown or big rainbow, hit a rip bait. So if that's kind of neat to do, and then
That's fun.
and I got a lot of guys that do half day guide trips that they
Okay.
they just don't know what they're going to expect in the morning, and I think in
Uh-huh.
the spring that's always fun for guys to do. And then you get into a topwater situation after the spawn. I think that's what you and I were doing when we were
Yep.
out there. And if the conditions are right, you could spend 6 or 7 hours out there and catch a lot of big giant ones. And I think catching them on topwater is the way to do it. And that generally runs between June and July and August. And you can catch topwater fish all the way into September.
Yeah, that was fun. I remember I had never seen a fish swirl a bait like that. I remember that's what I always remember. I remember I told Marker that from Bass Angler that this year, that was my drug, right? He's like, oh, that was so much fun to see it come up and just attack that bait and just swirl it real quick. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I almost had one.
And I've had clients that go out there with me, and some guy on the front of the boat will catch five, and the guy in the back of the boat won't catch anything. But the guy in the back of the boat will see all that action, what's going on, and he'll learn. Just the learning experience and seeing how many big giant fish do that in a day will kind of keep you going. It's like the anticipation of not knowing if one of those big 5 or 6 pounders is going to grab that thing is pretty exciting.
That's pretty awesome. So, what's the future here, Mark? The first year of Bass tournament professional is about ready to get done. Good luck on the tournament coming up. By the way, I hope you kick butt.
Yeah.
What is your future plans for your service, the tour? Where's this going with you?
Yeah, so the Band Pro Tour now is we're getting into our final tournament, which will be October 25th through the 24th or 25th through the 27th, and that is at Oakley. and then we take a break for 3 or 4 months, and we start again this next spring. They're going to rebrand the name of what we're doing. It's still under the BAM Pro Tour Series, but it's going to be the BAM Pro Tour Super. It's going to be the Super 60. So the
Oh, wow,
Super
okay.
60 now is going to be almost twice the size. So they're adding about 30 anglers.
Oh, wow.
The format's going to be the same, which is a great format, and I love fishing that. So
Mm-hmm.
it'll be a little bit different in the lakes that we're going to go to this year. I don't know if that series is going to come back and fish Almanor this year, but I do know that the Pro-Am series will be
The
back at Almanor.
Pro-Am scheduled for
They
September
are,
next year, I think.
yes,
Yeah.
they are
Yeah.
scheduled for September. So that's kind of neat. So my plan this year is to fish the Super 60 series through BAM, which is the kind of the elite series on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And if sponsorship works out, I want to fish the Pro-Am series also, and that's just
Okay.
because of that championship in September, back on my
Yeah.
home water. That's the time of year when I really excel, so I want to be able to qualify for that Pro-Am series and fish the championship here.
That's cool. So that's one thing that on the pro side that maybe people don't quite know how that all works. But you guys all have to go out and get your own sponsorship and funds. They're really, unless you're number one every week, the money for the tournament prizes, probably hard to live off at least getting started. So
Yeah,
sponsorships are really important. How's that work for you? I mean, do you have to spend that much time doing it, or
it does. It's time consuming, and you think about catching fish, and a lot of guys are like, I don't know if I can do that, and how stressful and how hard that is. Well, I think in this day and age, catching fish is the easy part.
easy part?
I think the sponsorship side of it is what is really tough, and I spend a lot of time doing it. Not a lot of guys spend a couple hours a week doing it, but I spend a few hours a day just focusing on my sponsor stuff and what I'm doing and
Cool.
gaining sponsorship. So it's definitely tough, but rewarding in the end. It's one of those things that you have to work at, and you need those dollars to be able to do
You
this. Sure, it's not
definitely to be
a
able to
cheap
do that
sport.
that living, right?
Yeah.
Very cool. So, what about the off season? You said the fishing kind of dries up towards the end of October. How do you spend your off season as far as bass fishing? Do you go other places and fish, or is it kind of
Yeah,
a reset period?
it's kind of a reset period, and like I said, it's kind of the transition time when you're trying to set up your sponsor stuff again, and you're trying to. A lot of guys swap their boats out in October, November, and December, so that's kind of that transition time when everyone's trying to get their stuff together for the next season and tournament series.
Right.
I like to take some time off. Actually, I think Eric and I were talking about maybe going down south and spending some time in February, and in
Nice.
Arizona, getting out of the cool for a while, but. Yeah, just doing something a little different. But there is a couple other series that start in January. There's a series out of Reading that fishes the Phil's Propeller, which is kind of a neat series to go do. And Juan Bass is actually coming back this year to Shasta, I believe, in January. So that's one of those things that kind of keeps everybody going while they're in their little transition time.
That's fantastic, fantastic. So, well, believe it or not, Mark, we're already come up on the end of our 30 minutes together. You and I could talk a lot about the life. I haven't even talked about just life in Chester and everything with you, but I didn't really ask all my guests the same three questions. So, if you don't mind, I got three questions for you, and you
Sure.
can turn them into fishing or personal for you. How's that work out?
Perfect.
All right, so let's go. I know you fishermen are all gearheads, so let's start with our gear question. Okay, so day of fishing for Mark, guide service or professional. What's the piece of gear that you never leave home with? You never leave home without if you're going to go bass fishing.
Oh, I think the number one most important thing is your eyewear. That's a
Oh,
lot of
eyewear.
guys
Okay,
don't think about that, but for me, it's my eyewear. You've got to have a perfect set of glasses. If you don't have the right ones, you're behind the eight ball, definitely. So
very good. Well, shout them out. What's your favorite? Let everybody know what your favorite
I've got a
eyewear is.
couple different ones. Waterland makes some great glasses right now. Some great vision glasses for the water, and
Okay.
yeah, if guys are looking for some good glasses where they can see down in the water and see the fish, check out Waterland.
I like it. Okay, so I'm gonna put the pressure on you. So you can't say Lake Almanor here. Okay, so let's just say that you and Erica do have a couple months off here. But your bag is packed, and you're gonna go anywhere you want to go fishing in the West. Lake Almanor being number one, we understand. But pick a second location. Tell us where you're going.
I have two favorite locations actually. I think I've learned to love the Columbia River. And I think that's probably, if Almanor's not my favorite, that's probably my second favorite.
Okay.
And last year when we went down to Lake Martinez, I kind of fell in love with that place, the lower Colorado River. And
Very good.
yeah, that's one of those places where I'm definitely going to go back there every year, whether I'm fishing a tournament there or not. I'm going back to do it.
All right. I'm going to ask you a fourth question tied right to that. Okay. So let's say you can't go fishing. You're a guy of the Sierra, Northern California, but you get a weekend out. You got to go camping with your family or hiking someplace. It has to be in the Sierra Nevada range. Where would you pick to go and why?
I've always loved to be around, the Lassen Park area and up there, and that's one of those areas where if you're going to go hike and you're up here in the summertime, grab a backpack and fill it full of stuff and go climb a volcano.
There you go. Is that what you like doing? You like climbing the volcanoes?
I've been up and down that thing a lot of times, and I haven't done it in a while, but I'd like to go do it again.
Oh, I like that. I like that. I always like the lakes, so I'm always going to find the lakes and
and those lakes up there are beautiful inside the park.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, final one. A little bit of food guy. You probably know that about me. Okay, long day on the water. You've been fishing. It's time for some food. What's the go-to meal and where are you going?
Wow, where am I going?
You're probably going home. I know you're so close.
I know.
You have to go out, okay?
Well, I'll tell you my favorite food. I got to have this on the boat, and that's a peanut butter and jelly roll-up. That's my go-to. So I think if I'm going out somewhere to eat, I mean, there's so many different places to go. I always used to love going down and seeing Sharon at the St. Bernard and getting a St. Bernard burger, and I kind of miss going out there and getting that. So
that was good. So very good. So are you a burger guy?
I am a burger guy. I try and stay away from them, but I am a burger guy. It seems like
find the burgers.
Yeah, I got to find.
Come on, you fishermen don't have to keep your weight down. Come on, you can. Just kidding. Mark, it has been a pleasure, man. I hope we get to talk to you again next season as you get going. I do want to come up and go fishing with you again. It was so much fun on Lake Almanor.
Yeah, next year for sure we'll get you back out there.
That sounds good. That sounds like a really good plan. So thanks for being our guest today. I wish you the best of the championships coming up. Hope
Thank you.
Delta treats you nice and you find a sweet hole and rise right back to the top there. It was really cool to see you go this year. So
yeah, thank you very much, and thanks for having me on again.
Hey, absolutely. Guys, wherever you're at today, thank you for joining us on our podcast. If you get a chance to go fishing Lake Almanor, look up Mark. If nothing else, he'll lead you in the right direction. He's a good guy up there. His wife, Erica, has a business in town too. So Chester's a great place to visit. If you're heading to the Sierra this weekend, it might get cold on Friday, but you skiers are probably in rejoice mode, ready to hit the mountains and get the snow. We got our snow issue coming out in November. We're working on that now. We'll look forward to bringing it to you. But we do hope the Sierra is in your future soon. And other than that, go out and explore and have a great day. Thanks for joining us. Oops.